The warning had been recorded 312 standard cycles earlier, sealed in a black archive cube stamped with a symbol no one alive recognized anymore. The cube had survived 3 council purges, 2 regime changes, and 1 civil war. It was considered ceremonial junk, kept only because deleting it required unanimous consent. On the day humanity arrived, someone finally grew bored enough to unlock it. The Galactic Council Chamber was a cathedral of arrogance. A ring of floating thrones, gravity fields tuned to each species' comfort, banners of conquered empires hanging like trophies. The air shimmered with translated whispers and smug anticipation. First contact hearings were usually dull, formal greetings, trade projections, quiet discussions about future integration. The hologram sputtered to life. It showed an alien admiral of an extinct species, tall and skeletal, one arm replaced by crude mechanical grafts. His uniform was scorched, his eyes sunken, his breathing labored. He looked straight into the future, into the council chamber, and spoke with the last authority of someone who had survived humans. "Do not," he said, each word heavy, deliberate, final. "Attack the humans." A ripple of amusement rolled through the chamber. The Corlith ambassador clicked his mandibles in laughter. "Is this some kind of death world folklore?" The hologram continued, ignoring them. "They are not the strongest. They are not the most advanced. They are not unified. That is what makes them dangerous." The admiral coughed, dark fluid staining his chest. "They bond through suffering. They weaponize grief. When you defeat them, they do not surrender. They adapt. When you annihilate them, they haunt you." Several counselors shifted uncomfortably. Most did not. The recording's voice dropped to a whisper. "They do not fight wars. They fight people. If you harm one of theirs, they will hunt you, not as soldiers, but as predators. They will hunt your commanders, your families, your myths. And they will never stop." The hologram flickered. "Leave them alone." It died mid-sentence. Silence lingered for a fraction of a breath before the chamber erupted. Laughter. Dismissive gestures. Amused commentary flooded the translators. "A charming relic," sneered the Threxian delegate. "Pre-warp hysterics." "Humans?" another counselor scoffed. "The noisy mammals from the Sol system?" The Corlith leaned forward, scales gleaming. "We've observed them for centuries. They cannot even agree among themselves. Their wars are primitive, their politics self-destructive. A fractured species barely crawling out of its gravity well." The council chair, a bloated, ancient being suspended in a nutrient cloud, raised a tendril. "The warning is noted." And dismissed. The vote passed in seconds. Humanity was labeled a destabilizing death world civilization, subject to corrective action. The strike was scheduled immediately. Earth never saw it coming. Galactic doctrine favored clean wars, decapitation strikes, infrastructure collapse, rapid capitulation. The Council's fleets arrived without announcement, blotting out stars over Earth's orbit. No hails. No negotiations. No demands. Orbital bombardment began at dawn. Human defense grids lit up the sky in futile resistance as alien energy lances carved through shipyards, missile silos, and power stations. Cities burned. Oceans boiled in places. Entire military complexes vanished in blinding flashes. The Council called it a limited enforcement operation. Humans called it the day the sky fell. By the end of the first hour, Earth's unified command structure was gone. By the end of the day, millions were dead. By the end of the week, humanity was very, very quiet. No counterattack came. No surrender signal either. The Council took this as confirmation of superiority. A surviving human delegation was extracted under flag of truce, bloodied, shaken, escorted by armed drones, and brought before the Council chamber for formal capitulation. The human ambassador was not a soldier. That surprised them. He was old. Gray-haired. Thin. One eye clouded from an old injury. His suit was simple, unadorned. No weapons. No insignia. He looked around the chamber slowly, taking in the trophies, the thrones, the smug faces. The Corlith spoke first. You are here, he said, to accept responsibility for your species' aggression and to agree to demilitarization. The human blinked. Aggression? You resisted lawful enforcement. The Corlith replied smoothly. Your planet is a threat. The human nodded once, as if confirming something to himself. And the cities? He asked quietly. The chamber stirred. Collateral, the council chair said. Acceptable losses. The human's jaw tightened. He closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, something had changed. You should have killed us all, he said. Laughter broke out again. The Corlith leaned closer. Is that a threat? No, the human replied. It's an observation. He lifted his gaze, meeting the eyes, compound, luminous, slitted, of beings who had never truly feared extinction. You think this is a war? He continued. You think we'll send fleets? You think we'll negotiate? You think we'll surrender? He smiled then. It wasn't defiance. It was grief sharpened into purpose. You didn't end us, he said softly. You made us focus. The council chair signaled the guards. Remove him. As the human was dragged away, he spoke one last time, voice calm, almost gentle. You should listen to your dead, he said. They're trying to warn you. The chamber doors sealed. The council congratulated itself. And somewhere in the dark, far from council space, something ancient stirred, not a fleet, not an empire, but a promise passed from one human to another, carried on whispers, encoded in pain. Humanity did not declare war. They simply began to remember every name. The council expected retaliation fleets. Dozens of warships. Organized squadrons. Tactical strikes. Something formal. Humanity sent nothing. Weeks passed. Months. Years. The council began to relax. Patrols returned to routine routes. Trade convoys resumed. Reports of missing vessels were dismissed as pirate incidents. Then the first outpost went dark. Not destroyed. Not obliterated. Just vanished. Communications went silent. Sensors read an empty station floating in orbit, power systems intact, but not a trace of life. A month later, a convoy disappeared along a major shipping lane. Another station went silent. Then another. Each time, nothing remained, not even wreckage. No energy signatures. No debris. Just absence. The Corlith High Admiral sneered. Merely coincidence. Rogue operations. Human incompetence. But the pattern spread. Slowly. Methodically. Small human vessels appeared at the edges of council space, shapes barely recognizable as ships. Rusted freighters. Old mining rigs. Modified cargo shuttles with improvised weapons. They didn't travel in fleets. They didn't engage in open battles. They stalked. They studied alien patrol habits, intercepted communications, and waited for moments of vulnerability. One human team infiltrated a Corlith research facility, not to destroy it, but to shut down life support for exactly 7 hours. Enough to induce panic, chaos, and mistrust among command structures. Enough to force the Corlith to question their own competence. Another team hijacked a council broadcast, playing silent footage of human funerals. Children placing small flags on coffins. Widows standing alone in desolate streets. Over every image, text flickered. We remember. The message was clear. Simple. Terrifying. We know who you are. We know where you live. We have time. The council convened an emergency session. For the first time, the old warning hologram was replayed in full. The recording of the skeletal admiral, his one mechanical arm trembling, his voice still raw with fear. Do not attack the humans. Silence. No laughter this time. Not even the Corlith clicked their mandibles. By then, it was already too late. Entire fleets went missing. Not a single distress call. Patrol ships returned empty. Crew logs ended mid-sentence. Bulkheads were found with alien names scratched into them, Messages, taunting, chilling, written in the blood of the lost. You touched Earth. The humans had not mobilized fleets. They had unleashed something far worse. Old soldiers. Retired mercenaries. Scientists. Farmers. Mothers and fathers who had survived the initial bombardments. Ordinary humans trained in extraordinary methods of survival and vengeance. They were hunters. And they did not stop. By the time the Council realized it, no one in their ranks felt safe. Every ship, every planet, every communication line was a potential trap. Humans moved in shadows, improvising weapons, turning alien technology against them with brutal efficiency. A Corlith warship, boasting the latest plasma cannon arrays, was found abandoned in orbit around a moon. Weapons online, but unmanned. The AI systems had been reprogrammed to fire upon their own fleet at random intervals. Panic swept through the command hierarchy like wildfire. The Council scrambled to respond. They attempted diplomacy, offered truces, begged for communication. The humans answered only once, a single message delivered by a hijacked drone, replayed in every council chamber simultaneously. We do not negotiate with those who refuse to see us as alive. It was concise. Clinical. Human. For the first time in galactic history, the Council truly feared humanity. And the hunt had only just begun. The turning point came quietly, almost invisibly, on a cold, barren outpost at the edge of Council space. Councillor Zelthra, the architect of the initial Earth bombardment, was captured. No explosions. No dramatic boarding maneuvers. Just silence. And then, the human delegation appeared. They didn't blind him with force. They didn't torture him. That would have been too simple. Too expected. They put him on trial. A human trial. Zelthra was shackled in a minimalistic courtroom aboard a modified freighter. The walls were stark white. The humans wore no uniforms, displayed no rank. Their weapons were carefully secured, out of sight, almost as if they were ashamed of their potential. But they were not. Witnesses were called, holographic projections of cities burning, entire fleets shredded, children crying, fathers dying. Names were read aloud. Millions of them. One by one. Each name a life, each name a weight that pressed upon the Councillor's soul. Zelthra raged. This is not war. You have no jurisdiction. You cannot judge me. A human judge leaned forward. Her face was lined with age, grief, and experience. Her eyes, gray and unflinching, bored into him. So do we, she said. You broke ours first. The verdict was broadcast across the galaxy. No council broadcast could override it. No procedural loophole could stop it. Guilty. The sentence was exile. They placed Zelthra in a small, unarmed shuttle with coordinates pre-programmed. No crew. No comms. No hope. The trajectory took him directly to what remained of the city his fleet had incinerated. As his shuttle descended, emergency channels flooded with human voices. Calm. Methodical. Merciless. We want you to see it, one said. We want you to remember. The feed cut. Zelthra was never heard from again. That single act crystallized a terrifying truth for the Council. Humans didn't need armies to win. They didn't need weapons to dominate. They used justice as a weapon. Species that surrendered early were spared. Integrated. Protected. Their lives continued, but under a shadow of fear, a subtle, unrelenting reminder of what defiance invited. Species that resisted were hunted mercilessly. Entire fleets disappeared without trace. Planets were seized not for conquest, but for precision strikes that left nothing to rebuild. Railguns fired stolen plasma cores. AI-guided ambushes reshaped entire theaters of war. Psychological operations dismantled command hierarchies before a shot was fired. The Council realized the terrifying calculus too late. Humans didn't fight to win battles, they fought to teach lessons. In under a year, the Corlith Empire collapsed. Not because humans outgunned them, but because humans never stopped hunting. Every corner of space became a chessboard. And humans were patient, calculating predators. The warning recorded centuries ago was no longer a relic. It was prophecy. Do not attack the humans. They will hunt you forever. And by now, the Council understood, they had already lost. Decades later, the Galactic Council still existed, but only as a shadow of its former self. Its chambers, once overflowing with arrogance and alien grandeur, were quiet, subdued. The human ambassador sat at the center, not on a throne, not with ceremony, but on a simple chair. His gray hair caught the muted light of the chamber, eyes sharp, unwavering, and haunted by memory. The ancient warning hologram played in a continuous loop on a massive wall behind him. Do not attack the humans. Young delegates from dozens of species watched it with growing unease. A Threxian child asked in a trembling voice, "Why didn't you just destroy us?" The human leaned back, considering. His eyes scanned the room, settling on the nervous faces of creatures who had once mocked his kind. "Because destruction is easy," he said, voice calm, deliberate. "What's difficult is making them remember." And remember they did. Every species that had survived learned. Every generation told the story of humanity's response, not mindless conquest, but a methodical, patient hunt. A series of lessons carved into the very fabric of the galaxy. Outside the Council, human ships patrolled. They were not sleek starships of legend, but practical, unglamorous, and deadly. Crewed by descendants of the hunters, soldiers, engineers, survivalists, ordinary people trained to endure and strike without hesitation, they were living reminders of Earth's unbroken will. Every fleet, every patrol, every communication was part of a larger design. Humanity did not rule the galaxy. They enforced consequence. They taught respect. They carried memory like a weapon. Somewhere, in the void, a species debated testing humanity, eager to challenge what they thought were primitive mammals. Somewhere else, a Corlith refugee whispered the same lesson to frightened younglings, passing on the dread of a past empire. And every time a reckless counselor or ambitious warlord considered striking first, a single thought spread through their mind like wildfire. Do not attack the humans. They will hunt you forever. The human ambassador watched the stars outside the chamber viewport, eyes reflecting 1,000 distant systems. A faint smile touched his lips, not of joy, not of malice, but of quiet satisfaction. For humanity had never sought vengeance, conquest, or glory. They had simply refused to be victims. And in that refusal, the galaxy learned a truth it would never forget. Somewhere deep in the darkness, a whisper carried from one star system to another, crossing light years of empty space. Try us. And humanity, patient as the universe itself, would respond.